It's time for the Expert Advantage Real Estate Show with Blake Sloan. Blake Sloan, one of the top real estate agents not only on the Grand Strand, but in the world. He's been featured in Forbes magazine, the Wall Street Journal, NBC, and many other publications. And now, the Expert Advantage Real Estate Show with Blake Sloan. Welcome to Blake Sloan Radio Show. Brand new show this week. I was out of the studio last weekend, back in here for the holiday weekend this weekend, and all kind of crazy stuff going on. And a huge news last week. I've been getting this question a lot via text message, DM, in person, whatever it is. So I want to talk about that. We'll talk about huge news last week with the National Association of Realtors and that, quote, settlement for the class action lawsuits, all that stuff. And I explain, hey, what's happened, what's going on, what basically is going to happen, and kind of what to look for as a consumer. We're getting some questions about clients and what to do, and we'll cover all that stuff for you as well. So lots of great stuff we'll talk about with that. I've already shot cool videos out and sent it out to people just to kind of, hey, we're obviously your resource to news. And so that's what we'll talk about there. I'll also talk about the building permits here on the Grand Strand. Myrtle Beach has actually performed very, very well, outperforming the rest of the state. So we'll talk about that. That was some great news that came out this week, or that was put together this week by a friend of mine. And also brand new, obviously the market numbers in, their final numbers from this month, and they look pretty good. And so one thing we've seen, pending sales are up significantly. We're hitting that stride where you're coming into that spring market. The spring market this year happened earlier than usual, but you're seeing it really kind of catch fire now. We've seen some of the biggest numbers I've seen in the last 12 months as I track this every morning. I talk about this all the time on the show, how many pending deals go into contract in the previous 7 days. This last week, we hit almost 270 million. Which we didn't have one single day last year. We hit that amount of properties going to contract just today, over 250 million in the last 7 days. So we're hitting that spring market like crazy. Got a little bit of a blessing from the interest rates being down back below 7 again. So we'll talk about that. But we have just one goal, as we always do, the same thing we're doing here almost 15 years now on this radio station. And that's just to keep you updated on anything and everything real estate related here on the Grand Strand. My goal is just that, hey, you listen to this and leave better knowing just a little bit more about real estate, because their largest asset they own, or one of the largest assets they own, is their real estate, right? And so I want to keep you in the know, and help you kind of keep a pulse of what's happening here on the Grand Strand, also what's happening nationally. And if you ever have any questions, you can always reach out to me at our office. You can always come back and watch these again, comment on there. We stream them on YouTube. Just type in Blake Sloan Radio Show. We also stream them on Facebook, LinkedIn. You can follow me on Facebook or Twitter. Just type in Blake Sloan. We stream those for you. And that way you can kind of come back and watch those. And more than happy to answer any questions. But again, we don't bring value. We know obviously that it gets difficult, gets tricky. There's lots of stuff, like even a lot of stuff in this news lately is totally false, not even close to even being true. About what was actually settled upon, what actually is going on, what the actual facts are. And so my job is to give you the real raw truth, like we always do to everyone here, also to our clients. And so we also have some amazing success stories. Our team's been absolutely crushing it. And turns it out, share a story about how one of our agents, Jasmine, saved her client $8,000 in her home purchase, and exactly how she did that. We'll talk about it today. TV with NBC and also Fox and Breakfast Morning Show. You heard the personal endorsements here by Sean Hannity, also Barbara Corcoran, Gary Levant. Put them all together, it's just totally unprecedented. Now that's one thing, but the other thing is that Blake has trademark systems for both home sellers and home buyers. They are trademarked, so we can't give you all the details, but more than happy every week to tell you the most important part of that system. Yes, and I see this every single day, every single week. I've been doing this, almost 20 years now. Started January 2005, but grew up in the real estate business. Mom, dad, aunt, uncle, grandpa, grandma, entire family sold real estate, and I grew up in the business. And they didn't want me to do real estate. They wanted me to do like doctor, lawyer. I always did very, very well in school, but always was just fascinated with business. And so I've been in the business doing this since January 2005. And actually, today's my mom's birthday. So big shout out to mom. Had birthday. She kind of took me under her wing initially, and I grew up. I was putting signs out with her when I was 2 years old, which is super cool. There's a lot of pictures of it, things like that. But overall, the reality, I see this in this business. A lot of people don't realize it. There's just so many
mistakes that are made that cost people so much money of their hard-earned equity. And what we find is people spend 15, 20, 30 years paying a mortgage payment, building a hard-earned equity, paying payment after payment, lots of interest. And meanwhile, their assets going up in value, but they only spend 10 or 15 minutes picking a real estate agent, or they try to do it themselves or whatever it is. And it costs them so much money of their hard-earned equity. And so it happens over and over and over again. I'm going to give you a couple of real examples today of why that is and why that's so important. Like, for example, on the buy side, the reason our agent was able to negotiate $88,000 extra for her client is because the other agent didn't know what they were doing. The other agent's very weak, a low discount agent, and cost their client way more money than it would actually cost them to actually pay a decent amount of money and have someone who's very good to handle it. Why? Because it's their largest asset, right? And so there's so many nuances. And here's the deal. The single most important variable that determines your success or your failure as a home seller comes down to one thing only. That thing is the agent that you choose, period. Not the wall color, not the time of year you sell. None of that matters. It comes down to really, how does your agent execute on the variables that must be executed to make it happen? And see, there's so many things that has to happen in a home sale, both on the listing side as well as the buyer side, to get to that successful outcome, to give you a competitive advantage. What most people don't realize is when you're selling a property, there's 118 different variables from A to Z. How do we know that? Because we tracked them. We actually sat down, spent hours and hours and hours over weeks of time, and just mapped out what has to happen in exactly the right order to make sure that you can manage those variables and create a successful outcome for a client. This was suggested to me by one of the smartest men I've ever met that ran a huge business in Austin, Texas, that's outside of real estate. It was actually grocery stores, took them from 40 to 4,000 and sold them. And so he modeled that, and we actually went and reverse engineered that and create a system that was proven and repeatable that creates maximum leverage for our client at every single point. And so at the end, what you do is you stack all the dominoes up and create small gaps of advantage for your client. And then over 118 different ones. At the end, it creates a massive gap between you and everyone else. And that's how you give your client a huge competitive advantage. And so I designed this thing called the Guaranteed Sold System, the only proven system that sell homes twice as fast and for up to 20% more money than traditional methods. And it works very, very, very well. And it's one thing that we designed, and I never forget that guy that was my mentor at the time that I paid a lot of money as a coach. He said, I'll come from Austin, Texas, get into real estate, come to Myrtle Beach, and I'll beat you every time. I said, well, how's that? And he said, because I do this thing called plan to win. He goes, I reverse engineer to win for my client first, and then win for my business second. And that's exactly what he taught me how to do. And so we figured out a way where we can come in and create small gaps. And the best analogies I've been able to find, to kind of explain is everybody who starts in a marathon, you have a shotgun start, everyone takes off. It looks pretty cool. Everyone's doing the same thing. But what happens over time is people spread out. And at the end, you have them finishing 2 and 3 hours ahead of everyone else. And the ones that win the most and win by the best times are the ones who sprint the entire marathon, right? And there's a process and a program they go through to do that. But we do the same exact thing in that marathon of your home sale to make sure we can sprint to that, but also get your property sold for the most amount of money by controlling those variables that make or break the home sale. And that's small things like the quality of the photos, things like the order of the photos. There's actually buyer psychology in terms of how buyers search online. They search by this thing called elimination. So if there's 40 houses that match, they're basically narrowing down the top 40 to find the top 3 or 4 or 5 they want to go look at. And so if pictures 2, 3, and 4 don't look good enough for them to keep looking on to picture 30 and 40, guess what happens? They just go to the next listing, and your property was eliminated before it ever even got to the choosing or to the I call it the choosing table, right? For them to pick if they want to go look at overall. And so there's all these small nuances we've learned to track and manage to make sure, hey, look, I can't manage that variable unless I track it. And so we started tracking it, managing it, putting a team behind it. And so that entire system which I design and we do license to other agents, other parts of the country, is backed up by 2 main things. Number one, a team of great people, a team of what we call specialists, where each person specializes what they do, versus everyone else in real estate operates like we call a generalist, right? You have one person who tries to do everything at once, and they're not good at anything, right? It's like having the same person at McDonald's, the front register, the drive-thru, and the French fries at the same time. If you went to a restaurant like that, your experience would be very, very bad. It's the same reason you get experience in real estate. In many cases, that's not very good because you have one agent trying to juggle all those balls, not just on your listing or your purchase, but 15 or 10 other deals if they're trying to survive. And the reality is that they're not able to be good at any of those. And so that's why what we did is we took this old school model. We call it an old school cassette tape, and we turned that into this new iPad Pro of a business model where everyone's a specialist and we back it up by technology. So we know who owns what task. The task gets executed at the highest level, but you always have one person you're connected with to make sure that you have that great connection, and they walk you through that entire process. And so every T's crossed, every I's dotted, and it gives you a massive competitive advantage. So if I can sell your house faster and put 7, 10, 12, 15% more money in your pocket and show you line by line how we do that, it allows you to leave that closing table successfully and put a whole lot more money in your pocket. And so if you want to know more how that works, reach out, call me. Anybody we sit with, it absolutely blows their mind overall. There's a guy this week that Jerry met with on our team. This is a new record. He had met with 10 agents, interviewed them, said they all sound the same. I finally went with a guy who was one of the cheapest, who just said, look, man, I'm not going to do anything but put your house on MLS and not really do anything else, but I'm cheap. He went with that because he said, at least that guy was telling the truth. He was very frustrated it wasn't selling. It reached out to us. It was about to expire. Didn't sell, obviously. Came to us. We showed him what we did, and he was absolutely blown away. He said, never seen anything like it before. And obviously, when it expires, wanted to switch because he saw the value in what it was. But once you see it, you can't unsee it, right? It shows you how things are so different in terms of that. And it's the same process for buyers out there. It's a very difficult buyer process right now. There's only 3.2 months inventory, which means it's a very, very low inventory marketplace, which means you want to have someone who's good, who's guiding you in the right direction. And so for buyers out there, we designed this thing called the Unfair Advantage Home Buying System. Get you priority access to foreclosures, distress sales, desperate sellers, the absolute best negotiation, purchase price, as well as home inspection to get you that closing table successfully. And both those give a massive competitive advantage. I made a promise. I would say that on every show because I've been doing this show, like I said, almost 15 years or maybe even 15 years now. And I still have people who listen to the show and still make massive mistakes and still call us after they have a massive mistake. And I really just have a goal of like, hey, how do we stop that? And I just want to share this every week. Like, look, it matters who you choose, right? If you're charged with a crime you didn't commit, the last thing you want is a part-time attorney who tried a few cases, right? If you have an illness that's, you can't be able to diagnose, the last thing you want is just some basic doc in the box. You want the absolute best specialist who specializes in that whatever type of issue you have, who's one of the best in the country, right? You should demand that same level of excellence when you're dealing with your largest asset. But for some reason, people always just go to who their friend recommended or who's the cheapest or who basically the first person they pick online, which is the absolute worst thing you can do because it all involves people, right? It's a service-based business. So you should get the same exact thing when you go to a restaurant. Sometimes the experience is phenomenal. Sometimes you go to the same exact restaurant, the experience is not good. Or you go to a similar restaurant, the experience is not good. What's the difference? The difference is the people, because it's a people-based business, a service-based business, and you want to make sure you have someone who's obsessed and committed to excellence. And so that's exactly what we do with those. If you want to know more, reach out, call me, 843-808-SOLD. Take a quick break, right back in a second.
That directly impact your family's future. Hey, your friend Sean Hannity here, and the same is true for your real estate transactions. Now, when you sell your home, you need to speak to one of the agents right here in town that will get you the most money with the least hassle. I'm talking about Blake Sloan of Sloan Realty Group. Now, knowing the facts when you vote and when you sell your home is always important. That's why you should check out the value of your home in today's market. When you know the accurate value, you are better equipped to make an informed decision with all the options laid out for you. Options like an instant offer or lay out your timeline and take advantage of their guaranteed sale program. Or just put it on the market and get more money than you expected. Just go to the website, find out your home's value in seconds. Call Blake Sloan today at 808-SOLD. That's 808-SOLD. Or online at blakesloan.com. That's blakesloan.com. And get your home's real value in today's market in just seconds, and then you can start packing.
Hi, I'm Barbara Corbin. I'm excited to connect with Blake Sloan, the only real estate agent in Myrtle I recommend. We offer several options to home sellers, which really takes away the stress.
That's right. For sellers at time crunch, you can agree to sell it on a certain date, taking after a home or even rent.
That's great. And if the seller has a bit more time,
Use our approved marketing plan and sell it for the highest price.
work with my friend Blake Sloan and get your home sold on your terms.
Welcome back to the Blake Sloan Radio Show. Brand new market update, all kind of stuff going on right now. And we are hitting the spring market with stride. It's great news. We talk about everything every week. Like, hey, there's two types of numbers. We have the windshield numbers, which is what I call, hey, what's happening in front of us right now as I'm driving through the market. I can see what's happening ahead of me, and I can make a forecast or a strategy change based on what's happening real time, right? In the rear view mirror, I'm looking at what's happening behind me. Those are properties that closed the past month. And that's how everyone pretty much does it for the most part across the country. They look at closed deals. So the problem is, like right now, look at what closed last month. You're looking at February. Now, if it closed in February, actually went under contract, usually 30 to 60 days prior to that. So you're looking at November, December, as property's going to contract, it's closing in February. So if you base your decisions off just that data alone, you're making decisions based off very data in a market that's totally different than what we talk about now, right? So back then we had 7+% interest rates, in some cases, 8% interest rates, usually about December, and it started coming down, and the market was at a dead still, right? It was very, very slow, and so now you're seeing it pick back up. But the problem is a lot of those January, February deals have just not closed yet, and so we're starting to see those close now. I think you're going to see overall, once the March numbers in, it's going to look very, very, very good, and we'll have that next week's show. But looking at that, the overall windshield numbers, those like what's happening real time, and the two main numbers I've been tracking since COVID-19, the lockdown started. We were in here. The best thing that we looked at is just how many properties go under contract the previous 7 days. That just allows me to kind of get a pulse, and I track it every day. Anything really above 500 is really good. And I look at the volume. And so anytime we're at 200 million or plus, it means the market is rock and roll. And so in the last 7 days, there are 664 properties that went under contract, and that's the entire Grand Strand. So that includes, south of Georgetown, West Marion, Dillon, things like that, southern North Carolina, a little bit, South Brunswick County, all those areas. And so 664 properties under contract just in the last 7 days for 250,892,000. So that's awesome. I mean, that's huge. I've only seen one other number, which is higher than that. This in the last 12 months, and that was like 265, 268. And that was just one day last week, which is awesome. The good news is there's 15 properties over $1 million went under contract, which is awesome. 106 properties over 500,000 went under contract, and inventory has continued to climb, which is great news right now. The single family active homes that are resale, I don't really count new construction because sometimes that data is not fully accurate. Where, for example, D.R. Horton may have one listing active when really there's 4 that are similar that are actually active. So I just use resale to keep a feel for that. Right now is 1,038 homes that are for sale that are active in Horry County for resale. There's one time at the very lowest we were like 380. Then it got up to 600, 700, 800. Last year we were around 800 to 900. We finally broke 1,000. I think the first of this year, and now we've been hovering around 1,038, 1,050, depending on how hot the market is. So that's great news. It's actually up 13. The pending sales, the amount was up 13.88% just from last week. So last week's show was 583 properties under contract. This week, 664. So a 13.88% increase. Last week's volume, 230 million. Right now, 250 million. So 20 million more in terms of volume under contract in the last 7 days, which is awesome news. We'll take that like crazy. If you look at resale properties, closed deals, so looking at the rearview mirror numbers right now for anyone that missed last week's show, the sales last month were up 6.8% from the same month last year. So February 2023 versus February 2024, sales up 6.8%, which is awesome overall. It did recover from a very tough December. December hit a really low since January 2016. 300 properties closed. Right now, last month, 346. So it bumped up from December 300, January 316, February 346, which is awesome. And the sales price, median sales price, up 7.0% from last year. So up February last year to February this year, up 7.0% at 380,000, which is awesome. Average sale price up 13%, 484,000. Months of supply, which is up, which is awesome news. It was hovering on 3.2 months. Right now, it's 3.5 months of inventory. And what that means is it's still a super seller's market, but there's more competition. Anything less than 6 months of inventory is a seller's market. Anything more than 6 months is a buyer's market. So you can see we're about half of what that is overall, which is great news over there. Overall, right now, showings per listing is down over last year, which is interesting, down 13.0%. Last year in February is getting, this year getting 4.7 showings per listing. The main problem though is the average amount of showings it takes to get a contract is 14.2, and so the average listing only gets 4.7 showings. But in statistically, to get a contract, you need 14.2. Ours are typically less than that because we use a lot of virtual reality walkthroughs, so they can virtually walk through your house before they get there, which eliminates a lot of the tire kickers. It makes it a lot more simple and better for our clients to do, which has been very, very helpful. We've even had a lot of people purchase sight unseen from up north just by us using that technology, which has been great news overall. For condo sales out there, closed sales down 1.1% for 370 properties closed last month. For condos, resale properties, average sale price is actually up 10.7%, which is awesome. 277,000 is the average sale price for condos. Median price up 9%, which is awesome. 230,000. Inventory has continued to climb. We hit a new record in a while at 5.1 months. It's up 121% from where it was last year. So some of that has to do with the market. Some of that has to do with just a lot more people selling now. A lot has to do with people getting special assessments and things like that, which has been a challenge, which we'll talk about. And the mortgage rates. That's one thing that's really been driving all this. This is a very, very heavy interest rate driven market. And we're back below 7. Things are back on fire. It's timed perfectly with the season. So if you're thinking about selling, do it sooner rather than later. We had somebody think about waiting for fall. Like, look, I would definitely, as buyers who've been in pain all winter up north, that have been itching out of there. It's still cold up there in cases. I think Ohio got snow like a week or two ago. And they're looking to come down here. You want to tee your property up right when everybody's coming down to buy. And we're seeing that really frenzy come in right now, which is awesome. So 30-year fixed rates right now, 6.91%, a 15-year fixed rate, 6.48%, a 30-year jumbo loan, 7.29%. Basically is a 7.6 ARM, 6.61%, a 30-year FHA, 6.39%, and a 30-year VA loan, 6.41%. Last week's show was 6.92. I was reading this morning, it's almost a record on how flat interest rates were this past week, which is great news for us. We want to keep it anything below 7. That's what I found has been a great threshold that a lot of buyers are still moving, a lot of great opportunity out there. And the last thing you want to do is wait too long when there's a lot more competition. If rates get down much lower, you can always buy now and then refinance a little bit later. Even through our lender, they're all for a free closing cost for you for your refinance, which is awesome. So lots of great stuff going on. We'll come back really quick, a quick break, right back into the hot buyer alert. We'll talk about that NAR settlement here in a minute.
WRNN listeners, Clay Travis here. As investors in real estate, Buck and I both know exactly what to look for to find.
Sorry, let's place that up.
All right.
About, I don't know, looks like 6-7 minutes.
Okay. Thank you.
Totally true, Clay. Here in Myrtle Beach, that agent is our friend Blake Sloan of Sloan Realty Group. If you need to sell a home and buy a new one, ask Blake about his guarantee. It says Blake guarantees to sell your home at a price and deadline you agree to, or he'll buy it himself. And since you know what your current home will sell by and for how much, you can buy your next home without worrying about getting stuck with 2 more. There's simply no other agent in the market who has a guarantee that will line up against what Blake Sloan can offer you. So when you're looking to sell and buy, he is your guy. Read nearly 750 5-star reviews by Googling Sloan Realty Group. Give Blake a call today and start packing. That's Sloan Realty Group. And tune in to Blake's show Saturdays at 9 a.m. and Sundays at 11:30 a.m.
Welcome back to Blake Sloan Radio Show. Hot buyers alert. My team and I are working the ridiculous amount of home buyers out there looking to buy properties here in the Myrtle Beach entire Grand Strand area. $250,000 up to $4.4 million right now. If you're thinking about selling, contact us immediately. 843-808-SOLD. That's 843-808-SOLD. One thing we do every single week, I've been doing this for years and years now, is putting my money where my mouth is. And we share how many real-time active buyers do we have with a username, password, account, all of that stuff. Right now, 75,785 active buyers, 75,785 active buyers from all over the globe. Right now, I got Suzanne Spetzer from Buffalo, New York. Todd Hayes from Waxhaw, North Carolina. Deb Riley from Salisbury, North Carolina. I got Jason Upright from Cleveland, Ohio. I got James Roberts from Wake Forest, North Carolina. Bowling Springs, North Carolina. Wichita, Kansas. Huntington, West Virginia. Southfield, Michigan. Rochester, New York. Valencia, PA. All over. And I share that because the question, hey, why should I call you Blake versus anyone else? Is we outspend the average agent 100 to 1 from a marketing standpoint. We're spending about $65,000 to $70,000 a month right now just in advertising. And that's mostly for buyers across the globe. And most agents only make that a year. And so that's their gross. And so that's one of the things that we drive so much more traffic. We have thousands of buyers who are already waiting for a property like yours, and we have a sales team make 16,000 phone calls a week, we just execute on the details so much higher than the average agent who shows up in shorts and flip-flops, right, hoping to get your property sold. We're executing with precision and intensity and able to really outspend the average agent because our business model, and that's how we sell properties faster and for more money. If I'm picking somebody, I want somebody who's aggressive in that. So if you're thinking about selling, reach out, call us 843 808-SOLD, 843-808-SOLD, or blakesloan.com anytime. Really quick success story. I want to make sure I get time to that settlement. Carol owned a beautiful home, Pawleys Island. Recently decided it's time to go back to Florida, be closer to her friends and family. One concern she had was being able to have random people going through her house that without actually buying her home. She was really, we did that a lot, but she looked at what investors would be willing to pay for her house, but because she didn't want people walking through her house, she quickly realized that, quote, everyone she spoke with was looking to steal her hard-earned equity by offering her pennies on the dollar what her home was actually worth. Thankfully, Carol heard about us, Sloan Group, from her friend, gave us a call. We came in, shared exactly. We had thousands of buyers who were well qualified, who were looking for homes just like hers, how we can make this super easy, simple process for her without getting overwhelmed by lots of people. We use our technology from the virtual reality walkthrough. We did our custom marketing plan I designed, professional photos, virtual reality walkthrough, drove massive traffic with just a couple weeks, had an incredible offer right at full asking price, and we were able to negotiate a perfect closing date that would coordinate with the closing of her house in Florida. Now she's able to move on to Florida and capture all of her hard-earned equity, which is awesome. I'm going to skip the next one. Just because I get a lot of questions like, hey, look, this NAR settlement, what's happened? Basically, for South Carolina, nothing really changes for us except they can't offer compensation in the MLS, right? You ask what the questions about. I'm more happy to chat anybody. I'm gonna do a long video about this I can send out to our database. Basically, had an injury attorney, an ambulance chasing attorney, do a massive, class action lawsuit. We still can't even figure out the exact details of how they did. They had a jury with no one who owns homes, got a judgment, and then basically they end up settling later on with that. And in essence, the settlement you have is you have some attorneys who stole $200 million from homeowners out there, in my opinion. But the overall results from this, right, is nothing has changed. Commission has always been negotiable. There's always been an ability to not have any co-broke commission. But the reality is people aren't going to work for free, right? And so you want people to be incentivized to sell your house. And it's one of those things that we kind of talked about. I did a long post about it on my Facebook. You can probably look it up. But one of the biggest things that was the casualty was just the facts. And so the reality is it comes down to economics. Overall, commission's always been negotiable. There's never had to do anything more than $1 on that. But compensation still matters. Why do people still offer compensation to a buyer broker before when they didn't have to? Because it works, right? The people that are selling your property that bring buyers to it, they like things like eating food, having shelter, having water, having close to their kids. And so they're always going to follow the money. And so one of the things I learned early on from that coach is money always goes where it's treated best. And number two, people always follow the money. And so that's something that's super important to look at, is that they're always going to follow the money. So we've always offered a fair co-broke, and that's why our properties sell faster, because you want somebody who's good. You want somebody who brings buyers, and the 20% of agents sell 80% of the houses, and you want them to want to sell your property, which is why offering a fair commission helps them sell for so much more. So basically through that, nothing has actually changed except you can't put it in the MLS. And so what they're going to do is they're just going to call anywhere, text anyway, because people always follow the money, and it does matter. And one of the things that I kind of said, and I share with my team, and I share with a lot of our clients that really called it, look, the reality is I can get my taxes done at Walmart, but that doesn't mean I should. Right? I could have a public defender represent me in court if I had a criminal charge, which I don't, but that doesn't mean I should, right? I could eat McDonald's every day for lunch because it's cheaper, but that doesn't mean I should. And you see this happen over and over and over. People end up stepping over dollars to pick up nickels, and it happens all the time. And I see it even daily. People get a discount agent. We just had that example. They hired an agent who was inferior for a cheaper price. We've always done this thing by our agency, so our clients, we don't have to worry about what the co-broke is because we have a agreement up front. But in this situation, had a very weak agent. Somebody on our team, Jasmine, she negotiated off the top $40,000 off the top, just in basically the price. Then all of a sudden, there's something that came up on the deed. There was a covenants on the deed. She then went back to the weak agent who couldn't even negotiate a full commission, negotiated $20,000 off for that. Then there's an appraisal shortage, and she went back and negotiated $20,000 more for $88,000 total off the price. all because the seller didn't have a quality agent representing them, and it just makes a massive difference. So you always get what you pay for. When you're dealing with your largest asset, you always want a true professional who's good at what they do to represent you. I hear these horror stories every week. So reach out, call me. We'll tell you more about it. 843-808-SOLD or BlakeSloan.com. We'll see you right back here next week.